Number 15, 2024 Dodgers versus Yankees. This World Series had the biggest logos in baseball and somehow zero danger. From the moment Freddie Freeman crushed that Game 1 grand slam, the series tilted and never recovered. Los Angeles won 4 of the 5 games by multiple runs, and New York never once held a late game lead after the 5th inning of any contest. Shohei Ohtani reached base constantly, Mookie Betts controlled the tempo, and the Dodgers lineup exposed every Yankee pitching mistake. The problem wasn't dominance, it was predictability. Aaron Judge went quiet after Game 2. Juan Soto never had a defining moment. By the time the Dodgers closed it out in Game 5, the outcome felt pre-written. No elimination game tension, no swing the series play, no image that will replay on highlight reels a decade from now. This was supposed to feel like history. Instead, it felt like confirmation of what everyone already knew. When a World Series feels inevitable from start to finish, aura never even gets a chance to form. Number 14, 2018 Red Sox versus Dodgers. Boston didn't just win this World Series, they smothered it. The Red Sox went up 2-0 behind dominant starts from Chris Sale and David Price, then broke the series open with a 9-6 extra inning win in Game 3 that lasted 7 hours and 18 minutes. That should have been chaos. Instead, it was exhaustion. By the time the Dodgers bullpen finally collapsed, the emotional peak had already passed. Mookie Betts homered, stole bases, and controlled games, while JD Martinez punished mistakes. Los Angeles never once led the series, and only briefly felt alive late in a couple games. Even the clincher in Game 5 felt routine. Boston scored early, added on, and closed calmly. This was one of the most talented teams ever assembled, but greatness alone doesn't guarantee aura. The lack of resistance drained the drama. You remember how good Boston was. You don't remember feeling nervous watching them finish the job. Number 13, 2015 Royals versus Mets. Kansas City won this World Series by strangling opponents slowly. Game 1 set the tone when the Royals erased a late deficit and walked it off in 14 innings. From there, it was pressure without mercy. They stole bases, put balls in play, and punished every defensive mistake. Eric Hosmer's mad dash home in Game 5 became the defining image, not because it was flashy, but because it embodied how the Royals broke teams mentally. Still, the Mets never truly threatened to seize control. Matt Harvey's late collapse in Game 5 felt more like inevitability than heartbreak. The Royals won 4 of the 5 games after trailing in each one, which is impressive, but also strangely quiet. No elimination game swung wildly. No single moment rewired baseball history. This was a masterclass in execution, not chaos. Aura needs fear. This series felt like suffocation, effective, relentless, and ultimately limited in emotional resonance. Number 12, 2012 Giants versus Tigers. The Giants sweeping Detroit looks dominant on paper, but dominance without suspense fades quickly. Pablo Sandoval's 3-homer Game 1 was explosive, yet it also effectively ended the series before it began. San Francisco never trailed after the 5th inning of any game. Justin Verlander lost Game 1. Max Scherzer never got a chance to change the tone. The Tigers' offense disappeared entirely, scoring just 6 runs across 4 games. Buster Posey controlled the series quietly, while the Giants' pitching staff erased any hope of momentum. The games blended together because nothing ever swung back. Sweeps can carry aura when they shock expectations. This one confirmed them. Detroit looked overmatched from the start, and the Giants looked comfortable throughout. There was no desperation, no late-game panic, no moment where the series felt alive. It mattered for the Giants' dynasty narrative, but on its own, this World Series never demanded attention. Control replaced tension, and aura disappeared with it. Number 11, 2021 Braves versus Astros. Atlanta's run felt improbable, but the World Series itself never quite broke loose. Jorge Soler's 446-foot leadoff homer in Game 1 was iconic, and his Game 6 blast into orbit sealed the title visually. Still, Houston never forced a true moment of panic. The Braves won 4 of 6 games, each by multiple runs. Max Fried's 6 scoreless innings in the clincher drained suspense early. Freddie Freeman finally getting his ring mattered emotionally, but the games lacked chaos. There was no dramatic elimination game rally, no inning where the series hung by a thread. The Braves were better, healthier at the right time, and more composed. This championship was about validation, not transformation. It closed a story rather than creating a new one. Aura thrives when outcomes feel fragile. This one felt sturdy. meaningful, deserved, and memorable, but never dangerous enough to etch itself permanently into baseball mythology. Number 10, 2023 Rangers versus Diamondbacks. Texas finally finished the job, but the World Series itself never escalated. The Rangers won the first 2 games in Arizona, including a Game 1 blowout that immediately shifted expectations. Corey Seager homered again. Adolis Garcia set the tone physically. From there, the Diamondbacks struggled to apply pressure. The Rangers won every road game in the postseason, an incredible stat. Yet the series lacked late inning volatility. No walk-off, no extra inning classic. No moment where Arizona looked ready to steal control. When Texas closed it out in Game 5, it felt calm rather than climactic. Bruce Bochy's fingerprints were everywhere, but his presence also brought inevitability. This was a clean coronation for a franchise long haunted by near misses. Aura usually comes from suffering in real time. Here, the suffering had already happened. The victory felt earned, but emotionally muted. Number 9, 2022 Astros versus Phillies. This World Series teased chaos before snapping back into order. Philadelphia's Game 3 homer barrage turned Citizens Bank Park into a riot, and for a moment, it felt like the Phillies might overwhelm Houston emotionally. Then the Astros responded. Combined no-hitter in Game 4, ruthless pitching. Jeremy Pena homering and defending at an elite level. Houston won 3 straight to close it out, suffocating momentum with precision. The tension peaked early and evaporated late. Dusty Baker finally winning a ring mattered deeply, but the games themselves lost bite once Houston asserted control. The Phillies never had a late chance to flip the series. This was redemption, not disruption. The Astros didn't shock anyone. They reminded the league who they were. Aura feeds on disbelief. This series resolved too cleanly to linger in collective memory, even if its significance inside Houston remains enormous. Number 8, 2020 Dodgers versus Rays. This World Series will always feel strange, but strange doesn't mean empty. The neutral site bubble stripped away crowd noise, travel, and momentum, forcing the focus entirely onto the baseball. Early on, the series felt tight. Game 4 was the defining moment, a complete breakdown of fundamentals that somehow turned into instant lore. Kevin Cash pulled Blake Snell after 73 pitches and 0 earned runs, and the Dodgers immediately punished the decision, flipping the game and arguably the series in real time. That moment alone gave this World Series its identity. Mookie Betts was everywhere, homering, stealing bases, and creating constant pressure. Clayton Kershaw delivered redemption, winning 2 games and shedding the October narrative that had followed him for a decade. Tampa fought, but the margins were thin, and Los Angeles executed when it mattered most. The aura here comes from tension without spectacle, and Randy Arozarena going balls to the wall. No roaring crowd, no packed stadium, just elite players exposed under a microscope. It didn't feel celebratory. It felt clinical, uncomfortable, and oddly intense, which makes it linger more than people admit. Number 7, 2014 Giants versus Royals. This World Series lived entirely on tension. Every game felt like it could snap at any moment, and most of them did. Kansas City walked off Game 1 in dramatic fashion, immediately setting a tone that this series would never be comfortable. Madison Bumgarner then entered mythology. He threw 21 innings, allowed just 1 earned run, and came out of the bullpen in Game 7 on 2 days rest to close the season himself. That final inning, with Alex Gordon stranded at third base, is burned into baseball memory. Still, the series lacked a single explosive swing that defined everything. It was pressure without release. The Giants won 4 of 7 by margins that never felt safe, and the Royals constantly threatened without ever landing the knockout. Aura comes from moments that echo. Bumgarner's dominance carries this series, but it never quite crossed into cultural takeover territory. Number 6, 2019 Nationals versus Astros. This World Series flipped the sport on its head by refusing to follow logic. The road team won all 7 games, something that had never happened before. Washington stole the first 2 in Houston, survived elimination twice, then watched Juan Soto stare down pitchers like he owned the stage. Game 7 is the anchor. Zach Greinke cruised into the 7th inning with a lead before giving up back-to-back homers to Anthony Rendon and Howie Kendrick. From there, Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg slammed the door. No crowd momentum, no home field energy, just silence and disbelief. This series had aura because it felt unnatural. Every expected advantage failed. Every script got shredded. The Nationals weren't dominant. They were defiant. That chaos elevates this above most modern World Series. Even if it lacked a single iconic swing, everyone instantly remembers. Number 5, 2004 Red Sox versus Cardinals. The World Series itself was a sweep, but the aura came from what preceded it. Boston had just pulled off the impossible, erasing a 3-0 deficit against the Yankees. By the time they reached St. Louis, the ending felt preordained. David Ortiz homered. Curt Schilling pitched through a bloody sock. The Cardinals never stood a chance. This wasn't suspenseful baseball. It was emotional release. 86 years of pressure evaporated in 4 calm games. Fenway energy traveled through television screens. The aura here isn't about drama inside the series. It's about inevitability finally breaking in the right direction. Sometimes aura comes from chaos. Sometimes it comes from relief so overwhelming it reshapes an entire fan base. This World Series ended a curse and altered baseball history forever. That alone carries enormous weight. Number 4, 2017 Astros versus Dodgers. This World Series felt like a heavyweight fight unfolding at full speed. Game 2 went 11 innings. Game 5 turned into a 13-12 masterpiece where leads evaporated instantly and momentum swung violently. George Springer homered twice. Clayton Kershaw melted. The ballpark felt like it was shaking. On the field, this was baseball chaos at its peak. That matters for aura. At the time, this felt like an instant classic. Raw, emotional, and unforgettable. What complicates its placement is everything that followed. The sign-stealing scandal didn't erase the moments, but it poisoned them. The aura didn't disappear. It fractured. You remember the swings, the noise, the insanity, and then the doubt creeps in. That tension between memory and reality keeps this series high, but prevents it from reaching the very top. Number 3, 2013 Red Sox versus Cardinals. This series felt heavy from the start. The Boston Marathon bombing lingered over the season, and the World Series became a stage for collective healing. David Ortiz turned into an event, reaching base nearly 70% of the time. Game 3 ended on the obstruction call. One of the strangest walk-offs ever, and somehow it felt right. Game 6 at Fenway was the release point. Koji Uehara struck out Matt Carpenter, gloves flew in the air, and a city exhaled. The Cardinals pushed, but Boston always answered. The aura wasn't about unpredictability. It was about meaning. Baseball rarely carries civic weight like this. This series mattered beyond wins and losses. It felt necessary. That emotional gravity elevates it above most championships, even without a single play rivaling the greatest moments ever. Number 2, 2025 Dodgers versus Blue Jays. This World Series shouldn't have existed, and that's why it has the most aura. Toronto hadn't been here in decades. Los Angeles carried the weight of expectations and history. The series swung wildly. Game 4 alone felt like a movie, with momentum flipping inning by inning. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. announced himself on the biggest stage. Shohei Ohtani delivered moments that felt mythic rather than athletic. By the time it reached Game 7, the tension was unbearable. Every pitch mattered. Every crowd shot felt electric. When the final out landed, it didn't feel like a championship. It felt like a moment baseball would reference forever. This wasn't dominance. This was disbelief stretched across 7 games. 2 franchises colliding at full emotional force. Aura isn't about names. It's about feeling like you're watching something that won't happen again. And this was definitely that. Number 1, 2016 Cubs versus Indians. This is aura built on history colliding with chaos. The Cubs hadn't won in 108 years. Cleveland hadn't won in 68. Game 7 alone would qualify this series near the top. Rain delay, extra innings. Rajai Davis's game-tying homer off Aroldis Chapman felt impossible. The weight was suffocating. When Ben Zobrist doubled in the 10th inning, it felt like time finally broke. This wasn't just baseball drama. It was generational tension snapping. Every pitch felt radioactive. Every error felt fatal. The Cubs didn't dominate. They survived. This World Series didn't just entertain, it exhausted the sport emotionally, and there simply can't be, nor will there ever be any World Series with more aura than this one. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.